Guys enjoying the show so far?
Yes.
See, they were a little hesitant last night. It was sort of it was real. It could have gone either way. Normally, this is the part of the show where we would do a piece from Brocelion, which we did in the 2005 Fringe Festival. But there we go. So we did in the 2005 Fringe Festival, which we are currently having redone by Mad King Thomas, who is a modern dance trio. And we considered doing some of that for you tonight, but then after some careful consideration, we realized that we were not dancers. So, for another one of your special bonus features tonight, you will be getting a piece of Descendant of Dragons, which was our last Fringe show. It went to Des Moines and Minneapolis, and it was a hit in Minneapolis. It was the best-selling show in its venue, and it was chosen for an encore slot. So this is a virginal piece to Rochester, and it cannot be performed without whiskey. October 2004, the Netherlands. I'm alive. I'm in Amsterdam, and near as I can tell, these two facts have little to no relationship with each other. I remember sitting in a large circular conference hall designed to intimidate and doing so effectively. I remember being surrounded by men of all nationalities in impeccably pressed suits. I seem to possess an aura of slovenliness that causes cloth to rumple as soon as it makes contact with my flesh. A man is standing at the podium rattling off a list of countries from every inhabited continent in the world, about half of which I recognize. Once he concludes, he states, "Those are just some of the countries in which the man I'm about to introduce requires no introduction." He goes on to another list of credentials before he states my father's name, my name, the one he chose to share with me, and yields the floor. And a white-haired Chinese man lurches onto the stage with that classic doctor's walk, leaning forward, head down, arms swinging, long, loping, Groucho strides, pointing himself like a bullet at his target, whether he knows where he's going or not. He turns toward the audience, confidently assumes the stage, pulls out a remote controlling the slides being projected on the wall behind him, and begins to speak. But something's wrong. You know, the slides won't move, they move too fast, they move out of order, I can't recall exactly. He turns to examine the problem, then he shoots the audience a cunning sideways glance, and that shit-eating grin appears on his face, that grin of a little Fijian boy trying to get away with something. And I'm filled with love for this man who's traveled the world, who's shaken hands with presidents and kings, and who still manages to email all of us jokes so dirty they can make your toes curl. His brain has conquered medical conundrums I can't even begin to comprehend. As a private physician, he once delivered 4 babies in 12 hours. As a scientist, his research has saved and improved lives too numerous to count. In my life and in my profession, I have known great men. And I have known good men. My father is one of the few I have met who is both. November 2005, Australia. I was pacing back and forth late one night, working through the details of a new play in my head, when suddenly I was just coughing and spluttering. My face, hands, and hair were all coated in a sticky white fluid. I peeled off layer after layer, but I was still covered in the stuff, and it took forever to scrub off. It took me several minutes of investigation of the scene of the incident to, ascertain what had happened. I just walked into a giant spider web stretched in between 2 trees. A giant fucking spider web, like in a Stan Lee comic. This is one of the most bizarre things that has ever happened to me. Now, I tell the story to my family the next day, and they casually mention the deadly venomous spiders that inhabit the area. Thanks, Dad. Good safety tip. Jesus, fuck, this country was not meant to be inhabited by man. I spent a lot of time with the two halves of my family, but rarely together, watching a little old Aussie farmer sheepishly ask for a knife and fork to replace his chopsticks at Yum Cha. It really drives home how my parents' marriage transformed the worlds of both their families. I sometimes wonder why I'm drawn to the Chinese half of my family. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that I grew up surrounded by whites in Minnesota, and kids tend to define themselves by differences rather than their similarities. So I wonder, if I had grown up in Hong Kong, would I be pouncing about in a top hat and a monocle, drinking Earl Grey instead of oolong, and peppering my speech with pip-pips and what hoes? All my life, I've been the Chinese kid. And I guess there's always been this thought at the back of my mind that this was part of the reason that I didn't fit in, that somewhere I would be able to walk into a room full of other people like me. Now, it's only upon traveling that I've discovered that in a room full of other Asians, I'm not half Chinese anymore. I'm half white. I belong everywhere and consequently nowhere, a perspective that's influenced my life and work in ways that I'm just beginning to realize. November 2005, New Zealand. New Zealand is an island off the coast of Australia. At one point, it was inhabited by more sheep than people, and 3/4 of the population is located in a single city. So, while I was there, I visited a sheep paddock. I didn't want to, but I did because I was a tourist in New Zealand and it's the law. Okay, for anyone who's never been around sheep before, the popular portrayal of them is utterly false. I walk in and they all raise their heads to glower at me in unified, bleary-eyed contempt. And let me tell you something, man. The innocent appearance is a facade. Sheep are fucking terrifying. And one day, mark my words on it, they're gonna realize it. All it takes is one of them to rise up, deliver a few fiery speeches about the primate oppressor, and he'll unify them, lead them forth as a kind of ovine Che Guevara, and the rest will all follow him like, you know the rest. Dismiss my words now, but heed my warning. Watch the sheep. We also dined with a number of Chinese relatives who live in the area. I was standing having a conversation with one of my cousins when suddenly a little old Chinese woman hobbled up to me, beaming, and traces a character into my Bruce Lee shirt. Do you know what this means? I respond eloquently. Lung, she says. This is Lung. It means dragon. You'll remember that now, won't you? Yes, I will, I said and meant it. That's Gumu's daughter, my mother whispers to me. Gumu was my grandfather's elder sister and the queen of a business empire in the Fiji Islands, so read respectable. Do you think she'd know anything about our ancestors? I ask, referring to my research for the book. Possibly, my mother says with hesitation. But if she did, there's no way she would say anything to you about it. It's so frustrating. 2 months ago, a relative of mine who may have been associated with the Nationalist Party passed on. I did some quick calculations and realized that he was the last low of his generation. All that remains is my father's generation, and they're not long for this earth. When I talk to them, they complain so much about how tight-lipped their relatives were while alive, either out of fear of scandal or the communists. But the minute I switch on that tape recorder, they fold their arms, squirm uncomfortably, and clam up, glossing over changing details they gave me only a few hours earlier. It's like 4,000 years of Confucian programming suddenly kick in. Respect your family, honor your ancestors, don't ask questions, and shut your hole. And I just wish I could make them understand that anything that they don't tell me is going to be lost forever.